All right, mi gente, what's going on? Welcome back to the show. It's the fastest freaking show in NFL, absolutely anywhere. Or with your boy, Big Johnny Stud, got the football helmet on, and we are ready. All right, if you know, you know. Who am I? The girl named Sugar. Follow me up on Twitter at John the Gazer Flow. Sharper than the damn razor. Same handle over on Substack. Find out what all the hubbub is about. Rock and rolling baseball and football stuff around the clock. Yesterday I launched the first best ball stream. I think I effed it up at some point. But I know I didn't give myself enough time to introduce everything that we're doing before jumping into the drafts. I'm just getting my drafting hat on. The ranks are done. Doing some battle testing. Make sure that they're all cleaned for everybody. And Underdog has moved to a 20-second clock, so that is lightning fast. You know, the massive amounts of volume. It moves so fast. So let's show off a little bit of what you get when you rock with us. Enough of that big old nose of mine. When you sign up to the Substack, it is $2 a week. For 5 pounds of shit in a 2-pound box, of course, we have all of the baseball stuffs and things. Check out the MLB side if you're interested. It's just every damn thing you could think of. But we're also doing NFL. I've got your preseason stuff up on the board. You could see first run of ranks. You know, of course, name. I have the site ADP and site projections. I like to color code the positions so there's like that bit of familiarity. Then our overall rank, and then I have some of last year's stats also. I thought that would have been a nice touch. Trying to get a little better every time around that ball of fire. These drafts move really hot and heavy. You almost have to know what you're looking for, and it's really helpful to be familiarized first. Yesterday, I got a real dose of that. You can't really be flipping around, looking at stats almost at all. Especially towards the end of the draft, as things starts to dry up. If anyone is unfamiliar to the format, best ball is the shit, especially if you're really busy like me with baseball or betting or family or all or none of the above. Because you get to the draft table, the game is played, you get what you get, and you don't get upset. Computer automatically scores everything. It's 18 rounds for just 4 positions: QB, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So you have to have positional balance in mind. If you take the really expensive quarterback, it's going to cost you in the other skill positions. Maybe you only want 2 instead of 3. Yesterday, I waited a bit too long on tight ends, thinking there might be some non-zeros at the end. Ended up with Harold Fannin first, who I think is fantastic. Ended up with Dulcis as the 2, which is kind of gross. But that was a pair with Willis. And then, after that, I didn't end up with anybody. I'm not going to reach for zeros just to fill it. Because a lot of the tight ends are going to be freaking zeros anyway. So when I don't want to count Fannin with the McBrides. He's not quite there. But I probably should have had a third tight end. I should have been quicker on the uptick with the second one. Where Dulcich is a fine tight end 3, probably less so of the 2. But again, we'll get better every time we go around. And who knows? Fannin could be the tight end 1. So there's your, ranks are up on the board. You kind of flip down. We're going all the way down. The player pool is really robust. I'm going to make another scuba dive down to the bottom. But then if you're unfamiliar with the work and you do the betting thing with us, you can see really great team level data. That kind of comes over from the MLB side, getting good at formatting this stuff for everybody. Everything set for percentiles, 10th and 90th percent, so the rankings come really easy. Don't need to know third worst, second worst. That's stupid. Missing an entire layer of nuance and context. Just all the stuff, man. Success rates and EPA per play, all the per play stuff, all the drive efficiency stuff, advanced rushing statistics, passing, of course. I have a whole section for like pressure and splash plays, sacks to pressure, sack to pressure rate, all types of slot data, zone versus man, coverage and alignments, how many backs are on the field and how they perform as far as EPA with that. Plus some fantasy stuff also, defensive fantasy points allowed per game to each position. Then how much of those specialty spots, QB rushing yards, right, RB receiving, those things matter if you're in fantasy and betting. So I like to have an eye out for everybody. Again, remember the door swings both ways, and part of why the data set is so good is because of you, the degenerates out there. Take a bow. You know what I mean? Your feedback helps me to make this stuff better. If I can get my hands on the stat or calculate it, I will provide it. We update it, every freaking day for every slate, plus the rest of the goodies. Of course, there's positional stuff. This will all update in real time come the season. Quarterbacks, running backs, pass catchers, everything advanced, end zone and slot stuff again, zone and man success, deep shots, outside stuff, all the stuff to give you that leg up in the information war. And then what I really think is the piece de resistance, all the differentials. Team differentials are really, really important, especially in betting. And I also think down to DFS and fantasy when we're trying to pace out games. It's really helped me to level up my betting game. I'm more of a team total guy. I think eliminating the variable of the other side, I don't want to say edge, because edge almost by definition is actionable, but it really is damn persuasive to get you to make a move, especially when it comes to underdogs, right? And especially underdogs that you think and end up eventually getting the crap kicked out of them. Defensive, right? Football has a clock and is inherently different than something like baseball. Teams actually shift into losing strategic scenarios, right? Depending on the score, because they don't care. But, right, that doesn't stop the other side from trying to score. And a lot of times we'll cover these really low underdog team totals pretty comfortably in like the end of the third or the beginning of the fourth, because no one is expecting, the Giants to score 14 or the fucking Titans to get to 12. But, these teams do score. I also time split all this stuff. That was differentials for the year. If you're looking up at the screen, that goes over to L4. Then we're going to have weekly projections. Of course. I also do optimal 150s for every slate, right? So if there's a showdown, I have that. If it's a full slate, we have that. Although I'll be honest, a lot of times I don't do the Sunday night standalone. You're on your fucking own with that. I'm shot. I'm shot by that point. Plus fantasy stuff, of course. I do a waiver column at The Athletic that I'll be doing again this year, so I'm always up to date on player movements and stuff. And I'll be doing, waivers twice a week, updating. I like to keep, I'm doing it in MLB, and it's really doing well and getting a lot of positive feedback. I'm getting better with syncing and formatting all this stuff. So I just keep a real-time running list up. It's much easier because everyone has different formats you can add every day. This person can't. This person's on Wednesday, who's on Thursday, who's on Monday, who's on Sunday. So it's just easier for me to just keep a running list, super deep running list, and you just kind of work your way down. I'll try and mark guys with priorities. Again, a little different than baseball without categories. But maybe if there's a half-point format boost, guys that are kind of touchdown dependent, which I think will make a pretty good segue into underdogs. So I'm going to press the enter button, and we'll see again. You never know when you're going to go. And of course, we're waiting for the draft, which means I was the 12th person, of course, and the draft is going to kick off in 55 seconds, and I already feel like I'm freaking under the gun already. Holy crap, it's just amazing, this stuff. So give me a second to just filibuster my way into sharing this draft tab, and then I think we'll be moving on from there. I like to cover all the names if I can. Looks like I've got the 7 pick. It'll give me a little time to BS in between. I got share this tab instead, and we're getting ready to kick that bad boy off. Man, with the 30-second clock, I was finding it difficult to do any kind of statistical player analysis. It's going to be really, really hard. Maybe I could just flip and flop around. I mean, I'm not that prepared. I'm doing my prep in real time here. Again, just kind of sharpening the ranks. I was really happy with the way the team came out. Maybe short of that third tight end, like I mentioned. But best ball is a game of attrition. And if you're drafting now, you could lose a guy to an ankle or a knee or whatever at any point. And it happens. That said, I'm going to try and clean that up this time around. Remember the underdog ranks that I showed you? Even with the stats and all that stuff, they do a great job of making it the CSV compatible. So it's literally the easiest thing. Any boomer can do it. Download the CSV. and then go to rankings on the underdog site, upload CSV, save, done. And it goes into all of the full season formats. Remember, that doesn't count for Eliminator and stuff. So again, I've got the 7. Went pretty much to be expected. This time, John Taylor went at the 6. Yesterday, it was James Cook that went really early. I think I'm going to just go with Mr. Reliable. I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He gets a little bit of everything. I wonder if I can show off a little bit of the tools, because part of it is how quick you can research them. So if you're good with Control F or the filter buttons, Amon-Ra was awesome, 324 fantasy points last year. 90% route participation, or the 172 targets for 1401 and 11. At 6.9 receptions, 82.4 yards per game, 30% target per route, almost 2.5 yards per route. You got to love that. 82 yards per game for a guy that gets nailed like a slot merchant. He had 13 deep targets, 19 slot routes a game, 5.5 catches, 4 catches from the slot, and 11 scores from there. So we love these number one wideouts that have the versatility to move in and out. Chalk me up for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Should be the GOAT pretty much every week. I found immediately as early as the second round, my ranks are completely decoupled from the market. Don't want to knock all the sharp best ball bros out there. But I think we've entered groupthink territory. Projections are better than ever. Smarter people are playing than ever. And when they run correlative exercises and get like a strong answer, they tend to always go in that route. Once all the really good players always seem to go in the same direction, lesser players are going to follow. ADP goes after it. I am loving this because I got my guy, Kenneth Walker, in the second. I am really jacked up about this pick. Let's take a quick look at Walker. He's going to the Chiefs, who have no competition there. They moved away from Isaiah Pacheco. They went and brought in Emmett Johnson, which we love, right? Because it's a really late pick and a pair. Hopefully I can remember his name come the 17th or 18th round, wherever he's going. Okay. Walker, we know, is a horse. He's been mixing it up with Charbonnet, kind of frustrating the fantasy community for years. When he went down, we saw what you could get from Walker, purely goated. Last year, even the overall stuff is still pretty strong. Double-digit explosive rush rate. Over 4.5 yards per attempt. That 3 yards after contact per attempt. Pretty solid. Double-digit 20-yard rushes. And pretty competent in the pass game. I know that was never the book on him, but I think it was because it wasn't being carved out for him. Not so much as he wasn't able to do it. It's like being mad at a wrestler for losing. He doesn't write the fucking script. The thing that I really like about Walker again is I think he's going to be catching the ball. I think he's going to dominate all the red zone stuff. It's not like Mahomes is running it in. He runs a little bit. He's more of a scrambler. He also, is banged up. You're probably going to get Fields to start the year, right? Fields showed a little more love passing to the running backs last year at Breece Hall. So I'm all about Ken Walker, who I think is going to be legit he's the engine of the Chiefs offense to start the year. Man, now we're at pick 3, and it's like decision time. Josh Allen, Devonta Smith, Chris Olave. Man, I struggle not taking Josh Allen. I know I was talking smack about, this was yesterday's show, about not paying the premium for the onesie positions, right? Those are the quarterback and tight end. And it was because when you take an Allen, you shouldn't take a third QB, and injuries can f you totally, right? However, like the flip side to that, if you're drafting as if you're correct, Josh Allen is, ridiculously good. I like to use the PFF scoring weeks. Sometimes Josh Allen was the number 1 QB 4 different times. Then he was the 2, the 4, and the 5. So he had 6 different top 5 finishes, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the top 9. He only had one outside a QB2. I mean, it's so consistent ceiling and floor. Allen is the man. And then the flip side to that argument is, again, if you're drafting like you're right, Allen is good and stays healthy. He saves you a pick to spend on, a skill player. Man, this next one, I'm torn. I got a lot of guys that I like here. I can already tell you I like this middle spot. I had 3 wide receivers with 2 picks in front of me. The 2 guys that I wanted both went. So I'm going to end up with my third one. He's the top of my board, right around the EDP. I'm a little bit ahead of EDP, and that's Emeka Egbuka. The other 2 players were Garrett Wilson and Ladd McConkey. I think McConkey without Keenan Allen is wheels up. I tweeted about him the other day. No one gives a shit, which is so funny. Like, baseball, I can move the needle, and people listen to me and stuff. And football, I don't know. And again, I know this and $3 will get you on the fucking bus. But I got nominated as the football writer of the year in fantasy 2 years in a row, right? And I feel like I know what I'm talking about. Again, I know it is total bullshit, right? But somebody thinks I know what the fuck I'm talking about. So anyway, maybe we'll be the edge this year, right? Maybe we're that undersung voice with all the good advice, trying to make best ball content for damn adults. I swear, I'm not going to call anybody out because I like a lot of these people and I have respect for them. And I don't think they're stupid or bad players or anything. I just think people are selling themselves out for content growth. And yes, they're going to make more money at this than I am. And I am going to give less fucks than possible. The campiness, the cartoonishness, the bad jokes, the vocal fry, the effects, the contests. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here? I remember a time when gambling meant you were sitting on a damn milk crate smoking a Marlboro Red. You know what I mean? You're taking this shit very seriously, and it's become a joke. It's become like a fucking parody of itself. All right, so here we go. Pick number 56. Batman, I'll tell you, I love these middle picks. The one guy that I was eyeing, because he was a few picks after ADP, was Travion Henderson. He went. Now I'm down to this is a choice I'm going to be making all freaking year, and it's Bashal Tootin or Jadarian Price. I'm going to go with ADP and Price over Tootin. I'm not going to jump on the I don't like Tootin wagon. I do think he's going to sacrifice some of the high-value work to Chris Rodriguez, who is very efficient and good between the tackles, right? This is not just low-calorie work. I think he can get you high-value yards. I think the 2 of them together in best ball is the shit, because Jacksonville could end up being a high-impact offense. We saw the glimpses of a career breakout from Lawrence. You've got Lee and Cohen with the year of repetitions, the comfort level kind of rising. There's every reason to love everything about the Jaguars, systemically. That said, Seattle's a run team. Charbonnet banged up. Emmanuel Wilson just blah. A lot of people thought Price was really kind of undersung because of the stress on production when he's playing behind the best player in the country. They love this guy. I also give Seattle the benefit of the doubt in draft picks almost always because they've deserved it. I think you have a chance at a 3-down roll or as close as you can get at this point. And I'm loving the balance right now. Josh Allen, Ken Walker, Jadarian Price, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Emeka Egbuka. I'm trying to be more balanced this year, both macro, overall, my portfolio and diversity, and micro in the draft. I've been, I like to talk about the mistakes that I made. Vocalizing them helps to correct them. And it's, kind of overdrafting positions. Let me see. Hopefully I'll remember that in a second. We're going to be up again. See, this is where I normally am taking my QB, but since I already took him, see, I don't love the 1v1. I know, listen, Josh Allen's a man, but you could be getting Burrow, Caleb, or Drake May right now, and instead I have to go with it really worries me, but I think the answer here is actually Alec Pierce. They gave him the bag. He showed to be a really talented receiver. And deep targets are worth more now than ever. So I'm not a Pierce stan by any means, but I think for this build it makes a lot of sense. I think the spike weeks are going to be there. The quarterback situation is definitely a little worrisome, right? If and when Daniel Jones returns and is healthy, we saw how good they can be. Other than that, the Richardson and Riley Leonard thing would have to worry you a little bit. I guess Leonard looked functional against Houston week 18. They put up a bunch of points. He showed he can run. Maybe he's like a temporary answer. Just out of curiosity, in that game, Pierce went absolutely ham-bone. Not that I want to make such a small sample kind of determination, but he went freaking bananas that game. He went 4, 132, and 2. So Pierce, if anything, yeah, again, I think that's just the best way to put it. I think he's being undersung for the potential here. He was the clearest number one, and they moved on from Pittman. So he was already playing every down, 86% of snaps, 80% route participation. It was higher than anybody on the team that's remaining, at least. 5.5 targets a game, 67 yards, but over 2 yards per route run, 19 air yards per target, over 106 air yards a game from Pierce. Remember, all the stats I'm pulling are from the sheet. Okay, we're up again. I was thinking running back. I was thinking maybe Harvey here. Oh, no, I'm going back to my guy. I'm not going to make the mistake again. I'm going back to my guy, Fannin. I'm going to be the Fannin stan. Because if I'm not going to have a tight end by, the late 70s, I like Tucker Kraft. I'm a little worried about the durability. Then after that, these are the guys I want as my 2. And that was a mistake that I made. I didn't get that 2 where I kind of have the cutoff point at Strange, and I missed on that. I really like Likely. I would like to scoop him up. Again, if you wait on a onesie, you should kind of, not say load up at all. I'm not saying that. But make sure that you're appropriating the draft capital properly, right? Think of like a triple beam balance type of thing. Somebody like Allen, you could wait to the last freaking round to grab anybody. Who gives a shit, Whatever it is, it is. Remember, there are people that felt that way about Sam Darnold last year, and he ended up getting you some weeks. He's not a QB1. He's not like a high-volume guy, but there are going to be spikes. Tight end Fannin is not really that guy. I think maybe I talked myself into that yesterday. But right now, I'm feeling really good about this team. I mean, Allen, Walker Price, Amon-Ra, Egbuka, Alec Pierce, and Harold Fannin. Again, I don't know. Who called me a baseball guy, yo? Missing me with that shit. Now we're at pick 90, and I'm about to be back on the board. I have Jacoby Myers circled. I mean, the Harvey pick that I like just went. Then maybe Rico Dowdle, he just went. And now I'm looking at, Myers, unless it's Monangai or Quorum. No, I think I want the other pass catcher. And actually, that's reminding me of the point I wanted to make before about the mistakes that I've made. And this is in both sports, a best ball that I play, at least, MLB and NFL. Now, I have noticed this year it has backed up a little bit, so I'm not sharp or anything. I'm just, again, following the pack. But there was a point when people were overly prioritizing wide receivers. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, depending on your own work. That's your answer, and that's fine. Where the mistake is made, and I think this is strategically, if you've identified a lack of depth and you prioritize a position, you need to ease off it. There's one team here, the names are here so I can pick on them. 5 wide receivers in the first 6 picks feels gluttonous. There's an opportunity cost and players being left on the board for this. Now, it is possible this person does not draft another wide receiver, in which case I'd say, okay, I have a feeling they're going to. Most people make these mistakes. That was me. Oh, wide receivers are hard to get to. Always taking the wide out. Always taking the wide out. And like any running back. Now we know running backs have gotten more volume and they've kind of stayed healthy. Not that that's necessarily going to repeat. But I think the meta of the game lends itself to more running backs. Shit. Blake Corum just went. And now, I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe... I got Kenny Gainwell queued up because I went with Myers. I have a few wide receivers, ahead of him. But Gainwell, we saw him go and kind of take a job. Now, I love Bucky Irving, and I probably need an injury, but we've seen that happen also, right? The ankle kept him out for mad long, and I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Gainwell also, I think without Rachaad White, has a pretty good pathway to some of the pass-catching work. And he's explosive. He's even running well. So, maybe they find a use for him out there. Again, Gainwell is your RB3. You're asking, for not so much from him. I have to make sure that I'm listening to my own advice and now kind of like padding that middle. Because if you have only 3 running backs as you're making your 10th pick, now I need to kind of fill in some guys. I have Aaron Jones. I can't go with J.K. Dobbins. I'm really worried about the injuries. I know Jones is old and injured too. Maybe Tyrone Tracy is there because I worry about Scatterbo. Maybe I like Tracy better than I like Jones. We've seen him produce. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna go a running back here. Hope that both of these guys don't get snagged. I'm up in 3. 2 picks in 3. After that, I don't know if I want Krosky, Merritt, or Mason. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to get either Tracy or Jones. I prefer Tracy because, again, I think there's a big injury risk for Scatterbo. He also seems like the type to maybe push himself too hard in his return. So just kind of padding with guys that we know have kind of won weeks before, can be majority workload guys and even command some end zone touches. These drafts just absolutely fly. We're near the end of the 10th. Appreciate everybody press the like button because it matters more than it should. No one asks you if your show was any good or if people had it resonate with them, if it sparked critical thought that bled out into their real life. None of that matters. All they want to know is how many fucking views did you get. So it is what the fuck it is. Now, I'm hoping that there isn't a massive tight end run to wipe me out. Right now, I like likely number 1. I guess I should take a stab on Kittle number 2, because if he comes back and he's healthy, that's a spike week guy when it matters. Gadsden is also up in the board, but I've become obviously worried about Njoku's role. He could be finished, and I've seen some people mention that, how no teams were interested in him. Very possible. I'm not sure I'm there yet. We're 3 picks away. Mark Andrews just went. I also would have went to Andrews without Isaiah Likely. I'm going to move him up my rankings. Okay, 2 picks away. I'm going to get my guy. I'm hoping for Likely. I think there's a bit of a hole there, although I wonder if I'd rather... Maybe I'd rather Kittle, who's 12 picks past ADP, and I wonder if anybody could see the little devil ears popping up. Because my immediate thought is, if and when, now that I got George Kittle, right, his risk is with re-aggravation and early part of the year. We've seen Jake Tongas be a every down focal point, like a tight end, right? Tight end 1. I actually have to go to the game logs because if you're looking at per game stuff, when he played with Kittle, it's not going to be great. But I feel like Tongas hung a couple winners. He absolutely hung a couple winners. Without Kittle, weeks 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 for 31, which is a regular tight end week, 2 for 21, a letdown. But that 358 and 1 is a check. 741 and 1 is a check. 6 and 58 is a massive fucking check. Then he went 760 and 1 in week 17. So my plan is to go Tongas like in the last one. I'm going to try and build it. I'm going to try and build it backwards. So I mentioned I have to queue up the guys that I don't want to forget because I'm a freaking meatball. So we had Emmett Johnson that we want to pair. I want to make sure I see him before I make every pick. Now, granted, he's not going for a while, but I want to build it backwards, and I think that's a smart way to play best ball. Your specific team may call for a specific late round pick. Now, I don't want to call this like a necessarily like a handcuff play because I think there's individual value. Man, I'm looking at maybe Jalen McMillan here. I've got a few players I like. All right, I have to make sure I don't take one of my late guys. So I have McMillan who I like, but also, man, I like Algier coming up, and I guess I should like Charbonnet, but I want to see if I can wait around on those guys. So I'm going to try and add into the Tampa thing, and I feel like we've seen McMillan succeed as a 3 in a crowded room. He came back from injury and pushed guys out of the way. So I think without Evans, I don't think Igbuka is getting jumped. But what if Godwin is old or gets hurt or both? And McMillan just continues his progression, his career trajectory. So I think that's a strong play, especially with Igbuka. I probably would not have gone there with Igbuka. But still, my ranks are definitely holding up to scrutiny here, which is always the first thing. You want to make sure you're not way too far off ADP and, you're not skipping over guys that you should. And now it's decision time again. Oh, see, I was going to mention the tight end, Sadiq, who just went, possibly Brenton Strange. I'm going to queue him up, even though I do like the Tongas play better. Maybe I should just rely on that. Now, I've liked Algier, and it's Charbonnet. Damn it. I like Algier better than I like Zach Charbonnet. I worry about the Charbonnet injury. He just went. The person probably didn't want me to pair him. I'm not going to say I don't care, but I really don't give a crap. Then as far as talent goes, it's starting to dry up, of course. Pacheco just went. Please don't snipe me on Algier, who we've seen take work away from Bijan freaking Robinson. I don't think Algier is going to get beat for work by a rookie. I don't care how good he is. I think they're going to ease him in and split it. And again, if something happens, Algier has a chance to be the lead. Again, the Cardinals, everyone thought he was going to be the lead. And I think they just YOLO'd the draft. I think they're not well run. I don't think they're, well thought out methodologically. And shouldn't have made that pick, especially after signing Algier. He thought he was going there to start. Again, talented back with a pathway to high value stuff. See, now I need to think about my backup QB, and they're really drying up. Man, maybe I like Stroud. I wonder if maybe that's like a lot of people, a younger me would YOLO the Fernando Mendoza. I don't know what we're going to get, or even, I guess he's going to, right? He's got to start right at the bat. The Cousins thing, they signed him. I don't know. I guess his contract is weird. It's only like a year or whatever. I kind of like Penix, but they brought in Tua. You could see them going away from him. Damn, CJ went. And now I'm down to like Brissett. I don't know if I like that. Maybe I do like Mendoza here. Again, thinking is Josh Allen is going to be awesome. And I just need maybe a shot of adrenaline later in the season. I mean, if he gets injured, my teams are screwed anyway. You're finished. Josh Allen goes down. It is a wrap. Got that right, yo. It is a freaking wrap. Shit. Shit, indeed. So, Mendoza, maybe to get you some spike weeks if you think he's going to be surrounded by talent. I keep saying, like, if he starts, and it's pissing people off, but I follow the money, and usually if you put a gun to my head and ask me if a veteran is generally going to outplay a zero experience rookie in the NFL to start the season, I'm usually like, yeah, probably. Just, like, knowing where to stand has value. You know what I mean? The game is incredibly fast. All right, now I'm kind of sweating a little bit, and I messed up because I was so focused. I was so focused on the second QB that I missed my guy, Emmett Johnson, sneaking to ADP. Now, someone would still have to jump him by half a round, but if you follow my work, I don't think half a round is jumping. I mean, I'm just hoping nobody takes him. The two guys in front of you already have 5 freaking running backs. Oh my gosh, two guys just went in the last 3. It was Malik Washington and Brian Robertson. Oh, and he fell to me, man. Sometimes you get those drafts where things just kind of go your way. To me, that's a tremendous piece to have. Johnson behind Walker. I am so happy with that handcuff at price, especially not have to overpay for it. Though I can't take much credit for it because I would not have put myself through that shit if I didn't have to. Now I'm kind of hunting for talent. I know the Jets are normally the last place we're looking for that shit. But, Adonai Mitchell is like a borderline star talent level player. And not really getting any love. Although, I guess this comes down to where I think my strength is. And even though I have more wide receivers, more running backs, I think wide receiver is my strength here. And I've been getting into Katron Allen in Washington just because I don't think there's much of a hurdle in front of him. I mean, Krosky, Merritt, Rashad White, Jerome Ford? If I had to list, right, the most vulnerable, the most, I almost said valuable, the most vulnerable backfields, Washington would be near the top. And, you're asking a lot from a rookie. But this is when I like to take him all the way at the very, very end. I'm going to hope he falls to me. Everything's been falling my way. I can't even be upset if it doesn't get there. It did. So I have to slam the door now on running backs, and let's look at the end game. I'm at 2, 7, 5, and 2. QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end. So I've got my 2 picks left, which would work out perfectly as far as positional balance goes. If you have Josh Allen, right, you're only expecting a second quarterback. And if you took Fannin, you're expecting 3. So I'm hoping Adonai Mitchell falls me. I'd like a 6 wide receiver. I'm going to take a wide receiver here. Now, I think Kayshon Boutte might make some noise. Darnell Mooney maybe on the Giants if we think they've improved a bit. Boutte just went. Maybe like Torrey Horton. I'm just not saying I'm looking for names I know. Maybe like Christian Kirk if we think he could develop into an underneath guy while Kittle is getting right. Wish I had Brock Purdy on this team. Then I definitely I'd be targeting Kirk. Because I am going to go, I'm going to go Tongas in the last round. I don't think anybody's going to draft him. But I think if you have Kittle, and Tongas with Fannin, I think I really smashed a lot of value. Now, I jumped Fannin by a round, but I don't think he would have made it back. So every draft is going to be different. And then, Kittle's injury is rightfully suppressing his cost. But I think, if Fannin is a good enough guy to rely on, and I think Tongas could give you a couple tight end 1 weeks in the meantime, right? So I'm pretty excited about this build. Mitchell might fall to me. If not, I got Mitchell and Mooney left of the guys that I mentioned. Trey Harris went, so I'm going to take Adonai Mitchell. Let's look at Mitchell's year-to-date stuff from last year. Some of it was really strong, Mitchell earned 74 targets, 33 catches, 453 and 2, which is not great. The quarterback play was atrocious. But 24% target per route, 1.5 yards per route, almost 14 yards per reception, 69 air yards a game. And, he's really good outside. He can win downfield. And to me, at least, for my money, that's like Geno's strong suit. I'm not going to get you bullish on Geno. I am not bullish on Geno. I'm not going out of my way to draft Geno. I do think if I didn't take Allen and had taken a Caleb or one of the Drake May, one of the Fannin types, right, the later ones that you still want to get a third body, I think Geno is a perfectly cromulent addition on top of a stack especially if you have Garrett Mitchell or Adonai, Breece Hall or whatever. So making my last pick, I'm expecting Tongas to go. If not, I'm probably going to go in Njoku, maybe Terrence Ferguson. Yeah, Tongas. I mean, of course he fell. That only makes sense. He signed this extension, by the way, so like he's locked in. That'll do it. Nobody drafting faster than Underdog. So I appreciate you all for jumping on. Man, wham bam. Thank you, man. Please subscribe to the channel. Shit matters more than it should. Press the stupid cartoon heart button or the thumb, whatever the stupid thing is, because it matters more than it should. Leave a comment, because that matters more than it should. Those I try and get back to and answer everybody, because I'm wildly unpopular in trying to change that. Let me know if you like the show, picking up what we're putting down. Hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions. Again, check out the Substack. There's a link in the description, and you can just check it out for free. There's all the sample stuff. You can take a look at just everything you get. It's a ton of shit. And it only builds up as we get into the season, and then all the baseball stuff on top of it. I mean, really, I could not be doing more. Plus the writing and just everything you get. There'll be exclusive audio and stuff, and just burning the candle on both ends. So thank you so much. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the day. When we're done with the book, enjoy the pay. And remember,